Finally, the final episode for season 12 of Doctor Who is over, and it was quite a chore to watch it. So, in this spoiler full review, I'll do a very fast recap so you don't have to watch it. I did it for you. I deserve the likes and the subscribe for that. So, in the previous episode, the Doctor has to save some refugees from a homicidal maniac called Assad. Because of Syria, I don't want to get started on a rant about how exploitative this feels. I mean, seriously, I realized after doing the review for the previous episode that the Lone Cyberman's name is Assad, and I found this similarity to a real life person with a very similar name and a certain political role in a certain country to be in very bad taste. I don't know if this is pun by Chris Chibnall. It may not be intended. I'll give that to them, but just the idea that this episode has to do with all this stuff, feels very exploitative, and it turned me off the show completely. And watching the finale was an effort for me, just because of that. And if they did that on purpose, they can go fuck themselves. The refugees, the remaining five human who have died because the doctor made a choice, very bad choice. He had to save, a poet and destroyed humanity. They have to cross a boundary, which is a sea. Yes, this is very subtle symbolism about the refugee crisis. And we have a portal that opens to Gallifrey, which is in ruins, which is pretty much what the refugees have to deal with when they cross the sea and end up, in Greece or something. And as the portal opens, a world master appears, and he forces the Doctor to go to Gallifrey, or the ruins of Gallifrey. Meanwhile, we have Yaz and Graham and some other people on a Cyberman spaceship where they foolishly entered last episode because there was a Cyberman transport. What could transport? I don't know. Cybermen? And they're all after them? Whatever. Nothing makes sense. I know that. Nothing makes sense in this episode. And the Cybermen try to kill them. They kill one. And what made the Cybermen scary for all those classic Who seasons and New Who season is that they were converting people. Right now, they don't. They're just, stormtroopers from Star Wars, only sometimes they hit somebody. And the master appears, he's talking to the Doctor on Gallifrey, and he's over the top. And that feels great. I mean, this master is everything that Jodie Whittaker is not. He's over the top, dramatic, very corny, very cheesy, and fun. And also we have a great callback to the Deadly Assassin. So he's in the Panopticon, he's referencing the Matrix, and he invites Assad to Gallifrey. Meanwhile, back in the border, we have Ryan and another guy, Ethan, and an old man they found there. And they have to stop the Cybermen from crossing the border, but then again, they're totally useless because they're men. Yas, Graham, and the other two refugees try to disguise themselves as Cybermen. And we have, a moment between Yas and Graham. Graham is probably the only person who likes Yas. I mean, we know the fandom doesn't. And he tells her how impressive she is. And, it's signal. We have exposition instead of showing stuff, like showing Yas to be amazing and not, insufferable and true to form. When it comes the time for Chibnall to, to show us how amazing Yas is, she says to Bradley, "You're not such a bad human after all." Hell, girl. Talking of exposition, the master teases some more exposition as he, says everything you know is a lie. And at this point, I was tempted to wait for a YouTube review that explains everything that happens in this episode, so I don't have to watch it because it was getting very boring. As I told you, no, I haven't told you, but this episode is 60 minutes long, and we'll get to the good part eventually. And there are a couple of good parts. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a finale. They built a season around these moments, and they're really good. And that's a redeeming thing about this episode, even though most of it feels like a chore. So 13 is she's trapped, she begs, she bargains, she appears to be insecure and weak, says the doctor we know and love, of course, because what's more doctorial than being insecure? You know, Chris, I get it as a woman, but it's the 21st century, so women can be amazing. They are able to do anything and have a strong core and being self assured and smart and crafty and amazing. You don't have to ride here like a wimp. Don't be sexist, Chris. So the Doctor is sent to the Matrix. Another callback to Deadly Assassin. Yes, this episode borrows a lot from Deadly Assassin and Mind of Morbius and other classic Who episodes. And it's done not in a good way because we'll get to the big twist. But let's get back, to Yas and the rest of the company on the spaceship. They're inside Cybermen, and we had a great opportunity to show them, in season 8 we had the Dalek with the Clara inside Dalek, which was an amazing episode, but we don't even try to do that because, let's be honest, Phil Ford and Steve Moffat had written amazing episodes for Doctor Who, and Signal hasn't. Of course, the Doctor and Master part leads to more exposition about the Timeless Child, and basically what we saw in the previous episode with the Irish dude, the police officer. It's a false memory of the Timeless Child that was, it has the power for regeneration, and as we'll learn later on, this regeneration is injected into the Time Lords only with a limit. Only the Timeless Child retains the power to regenerate beyond 12 times. Hint, hint. Meanwhile, we have Ryan and Ethan back in the border, and Ryan's oftentimes does something useful, and then he returns to his usual useless black comic relief character because Chris Chibnall is not only sexist, he's also racist. Despite what he may say about representation and stuff. No. Well, he sucks as a writer too, so I don't believe it's intended. He just sucks as a writer. And most of the problematic elements in this Doctor Who 2 seasons are very intentional and very fun. We get to this lone Cyberman, and his plan is to make all the Cybermen full robots. And he has a doomsday device inside him, the death particle, that can purge all organic life from a planet. So he's got this MacGuffin, and at this moment, Cybermen have been retconned into the Reapers from Mass Effect. And speaking of retcons, we learn, of course, that yes, the Time Lords took the power of regeneration from the poor refugee Timeless Child and put in themselves. So yes, colonialism is bad. Of course, we have to have these messages. And of course, we learn that the Doctor, who has regenerated more than 12 times, is the child and has her memory wiped. And yes, the original Timeless Child was a girl. And this thing kind of ruins the series in a big way because the Doctor has been a smack. Yes, he has been a genius, alien smack with centuries of experience and did all those amazing stuff, but he was basically just a Time Lord all this time. And Stephen Moffat did something very controversial with him. He made this Doctor into a super important character that was the center of the universe, especially in the Matt Smith era. And Chibnall takes that and moves it to over 9,000 in a way, and that's he did a great job of taking the Doctor back to some more grounded power, and then just like that. Meanwhile, Ryan and Ethan and the old man, I can't recall what's his name, fight Cybermen, but they're captured, and then Yas and friends come along to save them, disguised as Cybermen. Because Yas rules. Meanwhile, on Gallifrey, Master betrays Assad and takes over the Siberium inside him, and he does a very corny John Sim impression from the Davis era. And this master is over the top. He's fun. He's cartoony. He makes no sense, but he's fun. It's up to this point. The entire episode is not. Of course, he shrinks Assad, and he's got the death particle inside him, so he lives that in the middle of nowhere. Because when you have a doomsday device, that's what you do. You leave it somewhere where anyone would find it. Meanwhile, the Doctor is in the Matrix, and seeing Master exchange huge chunks of exposition instead of character development or action because it's criminal. He's no, he doesn't quite understand the show don't tell rule. He's so bad at throwing exposition and stuff, and I won't even comment. He's atrocious writer. He's an atrocious writer. He's probably the worst writer in the Doctor Who series at this point. He's embarrassingly bad. Then we have the big reveal about the Master's plan, and his plan is to create a Cyberman Time Lord hybrid with the corpses of Time Lords he has put in the fridge after he killed them, which is one twist that may be able to save this tiring, slow, boring episode. And I have to comment that at this point, we have reached the end of our regular Doctor Who episodes. It's 45 minutes have passed. Up to this point, we only have this and the previous one. There were two mentoring borderline filler episodes, and we got there, and we still have 20 minutes to go. So I think that people who made this show could, cut down some of the fluff and give us two good, well-paced episodes. But they did not. I think this is because they cannot give us interesting episodes. They only give us bloated messes. The Thumb, of course, comes to the rescue to save the Doctor in her darkness point, but then again, Ruth, the one I call Doctor 2 from episode 5 in this season, appears, some memory to the Doctor in the Matrix, and she offers more exposition. And you know what? Ruth is a great Doctor. She has the presence, the gravitas, the wisdom. She has an attitude that inspires people, and she inspires Judy Whittaker, the 13th Doctor. She's not 13, because... never mind. So yes, Ruth feels like the Doctor, and Judy Whittaker comments that yes, she sounds like her, or like her previous incarnations, because this Doctor is not like that. Please, could we have Ruth as the Doctor next season instead of this neurotic, why-not Doctor we currently have? I'd love to. So Ruth gives the Doctor the answers he needed, and we get a fan service montage with the Doctor Who theme playing and all the Doctors appearing on screen and some science stuff happen, and then we have a kaboom, the Doctor is free. So we get some action scenes where we have Cybermen that are in true stormtroopers from Star Wars fashion, miss the targets from 5 feet. We have some explosions and even more exposition, and we're down to the 10-minute mark. So this is where the episode almost gets good. The Doctor gets to be heroic. She puts the entire team in a TARDIS, the fam and the remaining human race, the 3 people who survived her choice not to wipe out the entire human population in episode 8, and sends them to Earth. But she remains on Gallifrey. She has taken the last explosive charge. She put the death particle on it, and she plans to blow Gallifrey and destroy the Master, his Cyber Lord army, herself. And we have this great dramatic scene as she goes to meet her end, and that's a scene worthy of the Doctor. Whoa, I mean, it seems like they still know how to do stuff like that. It's very dramatic, it's got some feels. It feels heroic from her to do that. It's great. So she goes to the master, they exchange some monologues, and then we get that the master is actually the Joker from The Dark Knight because he had planned this all along. He wanted the doctor to kill him and kill him herself. The death particle, that's why he left that this empty corridor in Gallifrey. And of course the doctor hesitates because she cannot be like the master, she cannot press the button and kill herself and the master and cyber lords. They're not alien spiders left to die from hunger like previous season. But of course, the old man from the border appears, and like any man in this series, he has to do the doctor's job. So he goes there, takes the charge, and blows the death particle while the doctor escapes the TARDIS. Because the doctor is a human, and you cannot have a human do a man's job. Because Chris Chibnall is sexist. And this Doctor Who, this season, the last season, are very problematic in this way. They cannot have a human do what a man has been doing for those years, despite being, the same character. So yes, overall, this episode was a disappointment. It meddled too much with the continuity, and I don't know why I did that. Because yes, it was a very important change in the canon, but I don't think it offered a big wow moment. Instead, it led a very confusing plot and actually made it. I think it was there to explain why we'll have more doctors on and on, despite the fact that it was established both in the Davis and Moffat era that this 12 regeneration limit can be extended because the Time Lords extended their generations during the Time War between Classic Who and New Who, as it was explained in the final episodes of David Tennant. And again, when Matt Smith regenerated, the Time Lords granted him extra generations after Clara asked them to. So they could, do that and if the Doctor regenerating and nobody complained. Instead, they had to go and create a whole mess of Gallifrey being destroyed, all the Time Lords dead, and this mess of a season. And we had the Doctor being totally unheroic once again, despite her being the most important Time Lord ever. And this episode did not quite deliver on the feels, despite almost doing that in a couple of scenes. And we got this cop-out Deus Ex Machina ending, and then the episode ends on a cliffhanger to the next episode. So yes, Chris Chibnall, bravo, you're amazing. You have ruined everything that was great with Doctor Who. You're a hack, you don't know how to write. This season was atrociously bad, I'm sorry to say that. I don't feel like I would watch another Doctor Who episode after that. Yes, if they really did reference to real world situations, it was tacky, felt wrong, and exploitative, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. You did that. Yes, that's my opinion. This episode was awful.